Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we'll be making ball gown, and this ball gown we have been on it for some days now. I apologize that it's coming in a bit late, but I promise you by the time you finish watching this video, to make your ball gown will be as easy as ABCD, especially if you are going into already ready to wear outfit for children. You have a perfect finishing, a neat finishing for your ready to wear. Without wasting so much time, let's dive into the video. So for this video, we are going to start by cutting out our pattern, because there's no ball gown without the bodies. So we are going to be cutting out the bodies first, and the first thing I did is to mark out a straight line so that you guys can be seeing what I am doing, since I am using a white paper on a white table. So once I marked the starting point, from that line, from the starting point I went down by 12 inches for my half length, and I made a mark there. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark my neckline, and for the width of my neckline I went in by 2.5 inches, and then the depth I went down by 3 inches. That's 2.5 inches by 3 inches. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect it to have a round neck, because we are going for a round neck. Once I am done with the neck, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 5.5 inches, which is 11 inches divided by 2. And I went down by 6 inches for my armhole depth. For this style, for this ball gown, we are marking out the front bodice first before we go ahead to mark the back bodice. Then for the shoulder slope, I went down by 0.25, and I'm going to go ahead and connect the lines, just like I've been connecting all the lines. Then I'm going to go ahead from my armhole. I'll measure from my bust chest line to my shoulder slope. I'll measure it and then get the midpoint, just like you see me do. And then at that midpoint, I'm going in by 0.25 as well, and I'm going to make a point there. Then the next thing I did is to take quarter of my bust measurement. That's my bust measurement divided by 4. I'll make a point there, and then I'm going to connect that point to the 2.5 inches at the armhole, and then my shoulder slope, my shoulder measurement. That's the points I'm going to connect. If you don't have your French cord, please make use of your free hand at this moment to connect the lines. So this is it. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark my waist measurement divided by 4, just like we did for our bust measurement. I'm going to make a point there and then connect it to my bust point. And that's basically all for the front bodies. If you haven't subscribed up to this moment, please hit on the subscribe button. Do not leave today without subscribing. We have few beautiful styles in the channel and more coming up already. So I just transferred the pattern to another one to cut out our back bodies. As you can see, I added about 1.5 inches for my zipper, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark my back neckline. And for my back neckline, I went down by 4.5 inches. I'm going to make a point there. You see the way I connected my zipper? That's the same way you're going to connect your zipper. Then from there, I'm going to make a slanted line to connect it to the neckline. And then at my armhole line, remember we took out 0.25 at the armhole for the front one. That's what I just replaced, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the neckline. Please, while cutting yours, separate the front and your back bodies before cutting out the front neckline, because it's going to affect it, which I'm going to show you guys once I remove this. So as I removed this and I wanted to connect the back neckline, I discovered that it has been affected by the front one. So I'm going to be replacing this when I transfer it to my fabric. And then from my back bodies, from my zipper side, I went up by 0.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this to my side seam. And that's all for the back bodice. So this is it. I've gone ahead to transfer it to my fabric. I have my my main fabric, the bridal satin, and my lining. So all I'm doing here is just to mark out just I want to attach a net there. So I went in by 1.5 inches, sorry, and I'm going down by about 4 inches if I am not mistaken. And I'm going to go ahead and slant this to meet just like the neckline is coming down. That's how I'm going to be coming down with it. Just the point that you make sure that it connects to the neckline very well, and there's no sharp curve there. I just hope you understand. Just look at the video, you understand what I am trying to say. So once I cut that at my pattern, I'm going to keep this because I'm going to use it to cut out my net, sorry. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out on my fabric as well. And when I'm cutting it, I left about 0.5 inches, that's half an inch to turn the neckline, and also added allowances everywhere necessary. That's 1.5 inches for my seam side, and then my neckline, my armhole, and the hemming part of the bodice, I added half inch on there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my lining. I'm going to cut it in a flare form. I'm just trying to get an estimate of where my waistline divided by 2 is going to fall in. So I'm cutting 2 of my waistline because I want it to be as big as full as possible. So my lining, I'm cutting it into 2. This is more like the front lining, the front bodice, and I'll cut and use this one to cut another one. So once I get my waistline divided by 2, I'm going to go ahead and take the length of my fabric. And for this length, I'm going for, in fact, I went for exactly my my length measurement, that's minus my bodice as don't forget that, so that I mark it so that by the time I finish sewing it, I can easily trim it off the excess. So I marked my exact measurement without allowance, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Remember, mine is 2, but if your fabric is not up to, please make use of what you have. Just cut one flare, but for me, I am cutting mine into 2. So I'm going to be using this one that I just cut out to cut another one, making it 2. For my bridal satin, I'm cutting just 1 because I don't have enough fabric for it to be 2. So I'm dividing my waist measurement into 4, and I just made rough estimate of where it's going to fall into, and then I'm going to mark my lines. Once I am done, I measured it to be sure that it's up to what I want, and from there I'm going to mark the length of my bridal satin. And for this length, I am marking exactly my the length of my gown minus my bodice, don't forget that, plus 1 inch. I added 1 inch allowance for joining and also for stitching once I am done stitching it down. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. This is it. Once I am done cutting it, my fabric is my exact measurement, but is into 2. I couldn't cut it together, so I'm just going to go ahead and join it to make it one full flare. So these are my fabric for my net. I have two colors. I bought the golden yellow colored first, and I decided to go back to buy more. Once when I got there, I couldn't remember the color that I bought first. I didn't go with my sample. So I have this for 3 years and the other one is 7 years. The total of what I have there is 10 years. So I'm going to put the total measurement of the fabrics that I use. I'm going to put it in the description box. For the length of my net, I am marking exactly my length plus 1 inch allowance to hem this, to join it to my fabric, to the bodice, sorry. So once I cut this out, I'm going to use the same measurement to cut out the remaining 7 years. So going into the sewing tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and work on the bodice first. And for this, I'm going to open my front bodice, and then I'm going to place my shining face and the front of the shining face facing the back of my main fabric. I hope you understand this. Once I place it and arrange it well, I'm going to go ahead and place my lining to cover it up. And then I'm going to go ahead and start pinning it. I started from the center because that's one of the most important parts of this front bodice. So once I pin that down, I'm going to go ahead and pin every pieces of this neckline. Once I am done pinning it, I'm going to go to my sewing machine and stitch it all the way. And this is my back bodice. As you can see, I've replaced what I cut out while cutting the front bodice. And I also went ahead to add all the allowances necessary, which you guys can see that I added ½ inch all around, but for my seam side I added 1.5 inches, and that's exactly what I did for my front bodice as well. So whatever I did for the front one, I'm going to repeat the same thing for my back bodice. I placed the front of my shining face at the back of my front bodice, and then I'm going to flip it to the wrong side before using my lining to cover this up. Once I am done, just like I did for the front part, I'm going to go ahead and pin this all the way down. Then I'm going to stitch it down, but I'm not stitching at the zipper allowance. I'm just stitching at the end neckline and then stopped at where my zipper allowance started. You are going to see the reason for doing that. Then I'm going to remove all the pins from the fabric, and then I'm going to make a notch on the edge of this front bodice. Please don't forget to make notches around this place so that it's easy for you to turn to the right side. So once I am done with that, I'm going to turn it to the right side. And you can as well go ahead to iron this down to keep it in place. And I'll repeat the same process for my back bodice. As you can see, my zipper allowance is still open. You are going to see what is used for towards the end of the video. So the next thing I'm going to do is to arrange my back bodice. And then I'm going to take my front bodice and place it front facing front. Once I place it, I'm going to go ahead and open my shoulder line. I'm going to place the shoulder line to match each other. That's my main fabric is at one side, and then my lining is at one side. I separated it from the center. I'm going to pin the neckline, the neck joining together, and then I'll pin all the way through. I hope you understand this. That's you open up your fabric and then move the lining to one side to be lining to lining, and then your main fabric to your main fabric, and then you're going to go ahead and stitch it down. So this is it after I was done stitching the two shoulders down. I'm going to go ahead and open this up to the right side so that you guys can see how neat it looks. So this is it, and you can see the lining area is closed and neat, and then the front bodice is also closed and neat. So we are going to go ahead and work on the armhole, and I'm going ahead to open my fabric just like you see me open mine. Go ahead and open your own. I'll try to explain this as much as I can. So you see the way I folded the fabric, go ahead and fold it. Once you fold it, you're going to use your main fabric and flip it to the right side, to the other side, and then use your lining to cover it up. Once you cover it up, you're going to hold the pieces that you use to cover this up. Just look at the video, you understand it. Once you close the pieces up, you're going to start pinning. That's your lining to the fabric that you are pinning, just the ones that you use to cover the rolled parts. The rolled part will be inside the body of the ones that you are pinning. I don't know how else to explain this. So I'm going to pin it all around. Don't worry, I'm going to repeat the same process so that you guys can see it well, in case you do not get this at the front, the first explanation. So I'm going to pin all the way through from one end to the other, making sure that my shoulder line is matching one and each other. So once I'm done pinning this, I'm going to go to my sewing machine and stitch it by the allowance that I added. So this is it. Once I am done stitching, please go ahead and make notches around this armhole because it's a curved area before turning it to the right side. So this is it. After turning it, you can see that the armhole is closed. All the rough edges is inside the fabric. So I'm going to repeat the same process. Don't worry, you are going to get it this time, I believe so. So just like I did for the other one, I'm going to arrange my fabric and open it up just like you see me open this up, and then you're going to roll over the one that you're not working with. Once you roll over, you will take the fabric and then cover it. You're just picking the fabric that you want to stitch, and remember the fabric to the bridal satin will be at one side, and then your lining, you will be at the other side that you used to cover. So once I cover it, I'm going to go ahead and pin it down just like I did for the first one. I'll pin it all the way, and then I'm going to go to my sewing machine to stitch this down. And don't forget to make notches around it once you are done stitching it before turning it to the other side. And this is it after stitching and turning it. You can see how neat and how neat it is. You don't have to worry about all the rough edges. So this is it. You're going to go ahead and work on the seam line. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and remeasure my bodice to be sure that the allowance I added is the same thing, or what I have in mind is what I added. And I added 1.5 inches, so that's what we're going to use to stitch it down. So you're going to open your fabric as well. Remember, lining to lining, main fabric to main fabric. So you're going to match the two seam lines where there is stitches. You're going to match it together. Pin that place first before going ahead to match every other side of the bodice. Just like the same way you picked your neckline, that's the same way you're going to pick this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pin all these places down. The ball gown is not so difficult to work with, to sew, if you work with a lot of pins, one, and if you are patient enough. So once I am done, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this by with 1.5 inches allowance that we added. And once I am done, I'm going to go ahead and turn it to the right side. You see how neat it is looking. I promise you, you are going to be so happy if you follow the same process. You are going to get a very neat finishing for ready to wear. Even if it's not ready to wear, there's nothing wrong with having a neat finishing. So this is my fabric. I've gone ahead to cut out the yoke, should I call it yoke, and I have 2 pieces of it. I'm going to be stitching the neckline and then turning it. That's why I cut out 2. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this because we want to gather our fabric. So I'm going to measure it to know how much fabric I'm going to, or how long my gathers are going to be. And once I measure it, I have about 30 inches. Remember that this 30 inches includes our zipper allowance. So these are my net for our ball gown. I've gone ahead to cut it out, and I also use pin to hold it down while cutting. I do not want to have any messed up situation going on there. So this is it. I'm going to go ahead and then open it up. For this, I'm going to gather this net together, because net is a very light fabric that you can gather even up to 3 layers of it at a time. So I'm going to run a loose stitch on it and then gather it. For this one, I just have 3 yards of it, so it's not up to the 7 yards that I have in the other one, so the lengths are different. So what I am going to do is to gather it separately, run a loose stitch and then gather it separate to the exact measurement of my waist. So moving on to our bridal satin, and remember we cut it into 2 different places. So I am going to go ahead and do front facing front, so that we can stitch this down to have a one full whole piece. And I'll do the same thing for my lining. My lining, remember, is more like double of my waist measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and join this as well. So this is it. After I was done joining my lining, I'm going to go ahead and attach our and this is my bridal. Also, I'm done joining this to have one fabric. So for our hard net, mine is not so hard. If you want a harder one, I think you will see, but for me, mine is not so hard. So I cut it short, about 9 inches for each length. So I'm going to attach it at the wrong side of the of our lining. What I'm going to do is to open it up, and then I'm going to go ahead. I'm using plates to attach this to this gown. You can as well use gathers or anyhow you want it. Just make sure that it's not the nets are not flat. So I did I attached it 2 by 2 just to make it get it to have volume. So once I am done, I have 2 layers of it, or 2 lines. You can as well attach as much as you can, or as much fabric that you have. So these are my nets. I am done gathering it, so I'm going to go ahead and join this so that it's easier for me to work with. So this is my bridal. I am bringing it in now. So I'm going to place it the front. Please make sure that you arrange your fabric well. That is the front of the bridal facing the back of the net. Whichever you want it to be the back, though the net doesn't have back, but you know I have 2 different colors, so it's more like the other color is my back. So once I attach it, This is my lining as well. I've gone ahead to attach my net, and I have 2 layers of it. My net could contain only 2 layers. You see how full, it's not so full, but it tried. It is, if you have a sticker net, it will come out better or fuller. So for my lining bodies, I folded it into 2 and I made a notch at the center. So I'm going to flip my lining to the right side, and then I'm going to place my bodice front facing front for this, and then I'll pin the 2 centers together. Once I pin it down, remember my lining is so much more than my bodice, so I drag the 2 seam side at the zipper line, not seam side, sorry, the 2 zipper allowances, and then pin it down. Then I'm going to go ahead and attach every other part. While stitching it down, I'm going to make some place into the fabric to gather the excess fabrics, and I will do the same thing for this other side. So this is it. After I am done attaching the lining, you can see how nice it's coming together. This is the back view. You can see how neat it is. So let's work on the main bodies. Just like we did for the lining, we are going to do front facing front as well for the main bodies, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch it down. For these main bodies, we do not have excess, so it's just the exact measurement of my fabric to this. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch and pin these together, and then pin the other end together. You can as well pin all the way through, but I did that off camera. It's going to take me a while because I have to arrange the fabric, everything before pinning. So I just pinned the 2 sides so that you guys can see, and I'm going to go to my sewing machine and stitch all the way from one end to the other. So this is it. After I was done stitching, you can see how beautiful it's coming together and coming out. So this is my fabric, my main fabric. You can see my lining. You can see how separate both of them are. So the next thing I'm going to do, you can see the armhole everywhere is neat and covered. The child doesn't need to start struggling to be comfortable in it. All the rough edges are covered, so it's to be as comfortable as possible. So we are going to go ahead and try to attach our zip. You don't want to miss this part, I'm telling you. So the first thing I'm going to do is to hold my lining. I went down by about 5 inches from my waistline, from my joining at my waist. That's my waistline. I went down by 5 inches, and then from that 5 inches, I'm going to stitch all the way from that 5 inches to the hem of the lining. Once I am done, we are going to work on the main fabric as well. And this main fabric, remember, I have about 5 layers. That's the net that has 3 layers, my bridal, my lining. So I'm going to go ahead and hold on to those layers. From the one side is 5 layers, the other side is 5, that's 10. Making sure you arrange everything. You don't want to miss anyone. Once I arrange, I'll start pinning, and then I went down by 5 inches just like I did for the lining, and I'll stitch all the way from that 5 inches downward. So this is it after stitching. At this point, I'll tell you the truth, it has become bulky, but it's manageable. I am done stitching it down. You can see, I'm sorry it keeps moving away from the camera. The gown became bulky and it was difficult for me to manage with the camera for the table. So this is our wrong side. You can see how neat it is, and you also saw the front one. You can see how neat it is coming together. So we are going to go ahead and attach our zip. For this zip, I'm going to go ahead and attach it first just on the lining. So this is the reason for leaving that opening. So this our zip is going to start from that opening. I'm going to place it, and then I'll use my needle to start holding it down from that neckline. So that neckline is open, that opening is the way I opened it. You are not going to fold it. So I'll start pinning. I'll pin all the way from that end to where my 5 inches started, the 5 inches that we left before stitching the zipper allowance. So I'm going to pin all the way down. Once I am done pinning it down, I'll go to my sewing machine and stitch it all the way down. And once I am done with that, I'm going to go repeat the same process for the other side. Remember, we are working with only our bodice now, not with the lining. The lining is on its own. So I am done with the main bodice. We are going to go ahead and attach our lining. Please pay attention. You see the way I use my lining to close up that area. You can see how I close it up, that neckline that we left. So at this point, just go ahead and stitch it down from where the neckline is coming from. So once you stitch it down, the other part, I think it was going to fall in place how it's supposed to be. From that place you stitch it down, just start pinning all the way from that neckline and moving the other one under out of the way. So you're going to pin all the way from there to where your zipper allowance ended, and you're going to go to the sewing machine to stitch it down. Just once you stitch on that neckline, every other part is going to fall in place for you for this lining part. And then once I am done with it, you just go ahead and find your way to the other side. Just flip the clothes to the other side. You're going to find the other zip. Because at this point, sometimes you'll be looking for the other one. It seems difficult to find. Just like we did to the other side, we are going to repeat the same process. Use the lining to cover the zip and then stitch it all the way. So when you look at it, you see that the zipper is in between the fabric and the lining. That's exactly what you're going to do. If you don't understand what you are doing, just use your pin it, and then check what you are doing before you continue. So I just cut out the excess on my of the zipper, just cut out, and then cut out all the bulky areas. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this to the right side so that you guys can see. To the wrong side, sorry. So this is the wrong side. You can see how neat it is. I'm just pulling out the neckline area so that it will come out well. So this is our front bodice. The zip is set already. I'm going to go ahead and turn it to the wrong side, this so that you guys can see. So this is the wrong side. You can see how neat it is. Tell me, what is the difference between this and the ready to wear that you buy from your market? Tell me. There is nothing. So see, it's looking so good. I couldn't get enough of it. See how neat it is. So the next thing I'm going to attach is this front piece that we left out. I almost forgot it, so I've gone ahead to stitch the neckline of this piece. I'm going to cut out the excess as close to the stitch line as possible, but please do not cut through the thread. Once I am done stitching it, cutting it out, I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the fabric. If you have line at this moment, please iron it with a low heat. So for this, I'm going to place the pointed area of the more like the V shape on this fabric, or you can look at your pattern and see how to place it. I do not know how else to explain this. So I'm going to place it at that V area. That's the first place I'm going to work with, because like I said, that's one of the most important part of this bodice. So once I place it there, I'm going to go ahead and pin this down. Then I'll start pinning every other part of the piece. And I'll do the same thing for the other side. Once I am done pinning this, I'm going to go ahead and stop stitch it very close to the neckline as much as I can. And that's basically all. Every other thing I did is just adding a little beautification to it, nothing serious, like cutting out my fabric of about 20 inches long and then 3 inches wide to attach to the shoulder, and then attach my trimming. If the bridal satin and the lining is too long, please go ahead and trim it off once you are done. So I'm just attaching this to the shoulder line just for a little bit of twist. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned one or two from it. Please give me a thumbs up if you do. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to my channel. Don't forget to share my videos to family and friends, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.